Hi, Rochelle. I've looked over your lesson plans and here's some feedback for you. In general, these lesson plans are complete. You've got all of the steps in here. Um, but you're making really big jumps in between the steps, and I think you're doing that at to the detriment of doing like some really scaffolded instruction. So let me show you some really specific areas where I want you to dig deeper and to do some more direct instruction and scaffolding. Okay, and that'll help you when you go to revise these. All right. So first, you've chosen well chosen evidence outcome. It's exactly what you need for pre-writing. And I like the fact that your global essential question is specifically addressed in your lesson plan as well. I think teacher candidates often do such a great job at creating these really cool global questions and never pull them into their lesson plans. You'd be surprised how common that is. So I was really glad to see that you didn't make that mistake. Okay, here, so your students will understand how language is used as an instrument of social control, and then students will be able to use planning strategies, all right? I want you to work on aligning these two a little bit closer. This one over here, your students will be able to, is very specific to your established goals, all right? Use planning strategies by filling out a graphic organizer, okay? But we want our students will be able, or excuse me, our students will understand to be well aligned with the students will be able to. So in other words, students will understand the value of planning strategies or the value of a graphic organizer, or maybe students will understand that planning strategies are an essential first step to the writing process, something like that. I already know that you're going to be looking at language used as an instrument of control because that's your global question, and that came specifically out of the book that you're reading, Animal Farm, but we want these two guys to align to evidence outcomes, okay? All right, so for your assessment, these are well done. So I can see that, you formatively are going to look at their graphic organizers and make sure that the kids are on track as far as choosing characters and analyzing those characters to meet their goal. So that's well done. And then the summative assessment obviously is, working towards their actual paper. All right. So those are well done. Okay, so here in our learning plan, you do not have a hook in here. You actually just start right in with your lesson. Today we're brainstorming ideas for the essay. And remember that your hook, even if it was only a 2-minute thing, could be, it should be something designed to help the kids redirect their attention from their social lives that were just happening in the hallway before our class started, and really pull their focus into your classroom, into your content, into their skills, things like that. Okay, so the hook needs to be that highly engaging piece that you can transition into this. Today we'll be brainstorming ideas for the essay we'll be writing. Okay, so let's work on that hook. Second, you actually have two totally separate questions for your prompt, which isn't necessarily bad, but it wouldn't be bad if you were telling the kids they could choose one or the other, but you have two separate questions and then really only seem to address the social control question, not necessarily the author's purpose question, at the oral question, okay? So you may want to work on solidifying that prompt. Again, think about Lemov's. Oh, I think it's in chapter 2. It's his double planning technique, right? So it's whereby you write your lesson plans and then you sit down and you reread them and think about if you were a student sitting in your class, okay? How would you feel? What kinds of things are you hearing? Do you feel like the expectations are clear? Different things like that. So if you throw two different sentences at students for a prompt, are they going to think, oh, I can choose one or the other? And then was that your intention? Okay, so think about that double planning thing to help you out with these prompts. All right. I'm a big fan of graphic organizers, especially in a pre-writing phase, especially for 8th graders. So I'm glad that you chose that technique. I think it's useful. And I also liked some of your ideas on the differentiation over here, that you could help students not be so overwhelmed, really help them kind of refine do limited choice, refine their choices for them. So I like that. That was well done. Okay. All right. Very clear instructions here that you'll be creating a graphic organizer. They need to get out their paper. Here's the piece. This direct instruction is well designed such that it's very clear for students to follow what you're doing. Here's my concern, though. It's with the content of it. You are essentially writing their essay for them. Here are the two prominent characters who use language to influence other characters in the book, Napoleon and Snowball. Those are the ones that they put in their notes. Then you pull a quote from the text specifically about Napoleon, and you are the one that analyzes that. Okay, it'd be very easy for students to copy this down, and then for you to really end up with a whole classroom full of essays that have the exact same sentences in them, because all they've been doing is copying down what you're doing. And so this is one of those teacher strategies, right? We want our kids to work on the skill of analyzing text to choose good quotes. We want our kids to work on the skill of analyzing a text so that they can plan an essay, right? Think about the skill that you want them to work on more than the content, okay? Animal Farm is not a long book. Your prompt that you chose is very obvious theme in the book, and so it's not something that's going to skitter away from the kids. It's very clear. But for you to demonstrate the skill and have them work with it, it might not be a bad idea for you to demonstrate the skill from a different text that the kids have read and know, even if it's a kid's text or if it's a fairy tale, some really common, easily accessible text, so that you are not essentially writing the first sentences of their paper for them, because that's exactly what's happening here. Okay. You know what? Help me remember when I see you next time in class. Someone did a really good job at pulling different text to model with. It was someone here in 341. I will dig back through my notes and find out, and we'll see if we can't get you a copy of that lesson plan so that you can see a sample of what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. So like I said, your direct instruction is very clear. It's easy for the kids to follow what it is that you're doing. All right. And then you transition from, characters, quotes, and how quotes relate to the prompt. And then you transition them into thesis statement. All right. In the thesis statement here, all right, you model for them. In Animal Farm, George Orwell shows how language is used as a means of social control by creating a sense of unity. Your model is a perfect fit for the writing prompt. All right, you recycled parts of the prompt, social control. Okay, you recycled parts of your pre-writing, unity, and then you have the kids write a working thesis statement. Okay, here's my hang up with that. You have written the perfect thesis statement. I don't know what it is that your kids would be doing other than copying yours and trying to find a couple synonyms for it. But you wrote the perfect thesis statement for them. And it's interesting because after you tell them that you want them to write a working thesis statement, that's when you move on to say, I want you to think about the characters from the graphic organizer and the way that they use language, and that's going to be a part of your thesis statement. So you're actually providing instruction for how to write their thesis statement after you've asked them to write it and after you've written a perfect one. So again, let's go back to my idea of using a different, really easy, accessible text for you to model with, so that then the students themselves can be coming up with something like this, where they recycle parts of the prompt and then use pieces from their graphic organizer. Okay, I hope that's making sense. And of course, you can come visit me with me in my office and we can look over these things too. Okay, so now we're inside your second lesson plan. And again, pardon me, you've chosen the perfect evidence outcome to work on for a drafting lesson plan. That's well done, okay? And this time, your students will understand and your students will be able to are very well aligned so that that the whole class is about the focus of organizing the paper. This is the action they're doing. This is the importance they're attaching to that action. So very nicely done in that respect. Okay. Again, your formative your formative and summative assessments are well done. Make sure though, here in your formative assessment, you have in groups, students will look at a mentor essay and identify introduction, sentences, and details. So I can't see a mentor essay attached to this lesson plan at all. And so I don't know what you're going to be assessing or what this essay looks like, or if this essay is well structured or if it's not well structured, so that their goal is to identify sentences and details that don't have supporting evidence or that do, or something like that. So make sure that you include that formative assessment inside your lesson plan for me, so that way I can see where you're headed with the kids. Okay. All right. Again, got to get just even if it's just a 2-minute engagement piece in there. And then you start in with reminding what they were doing last class, and that's well done. You have this sentence in here: remember, the thesis statement shows the reader how the rest of your paper will be organized. I went back and checked your first lesson plan, and that was not a comment or a notion that you had mentioned to the kids last time. And so, really think carefully about your wording, especially with a bunch of 8th graders. They may not really have the courage to raise their hand and go, wait, I don't know what you're talking about. They'll just think, oh gosh, I'm the only idiot that forgot that she said that. And here you'll be moving forward and they'll all be feeling kind of nervous and uncomfortable, okay? You talk about organization briefly here, and then you say take a few minutes and write down the ideas you want to include in your paper. So this is the only bullet point that you have that helps them to generate ideas for the body of their paper. Previously, on your other lesson plan, you had them write down characters who used language to influence people, and then how they use that language. But I'm not sure what you mean then by take a few minutes to write down ideas you want to include in your paper. This is a very broad term. And you need to stop here. Remember how we've been practicing in class, playing with some words for a while and letting people own them and understand them and roll those ideas, those notions in their head. You need to do this here. You need to slow down and break this down, because I don't know what ideas you would expect the kids to be writing beyond the characters that they talked about yesterday. All right. You jump straight from this instruction. You jump straight from giving the kids the direction to write down ideas without instructing them how to do it, right into how to create an outline that'll help you organize your thoughts. And really what your outline is here in your direct instruction section is how to structure a paragraph. So you jump straight into this idea of the first step for the outline is to write a topic sentence that has to do with the thesis. But you haven't talked to the kids at all about what a topic sentence is, or how to write a good topic sentence, what the criteria for a good topic sentence is. Should each topic sentence be about a different character that does this, because that's what you had me working on yesterday? Or are you looking for some more abstract ideas to talk about the social construction? I don't know what you mean by write a topic sentence. And then choose a quote that supports the topic sentence, and then have an exclamation because you don't want a dropped quote. So that's a paragraph structure that you're direct instructing them on. All right. Again, you say, look at the sample essay, but I can't see that, so I don't really know what it is that they're doing. Okay. What it is that they're supposed to be analyzing. Here again, you write the perfect paragraph for their prompt and for their essay right here when you're modeling in class. And so really what you're doing is taking some of the best ideas and putting them in your model, thereby blocking the kids from using those best ideas, okay? And so you need to be really careful about that. Again, think about this idea of revising this such that you're modeling with an easy, accessible text instead of kind of taking those best ideas away from the kids, because oftentimes that's how they feel that, you know, what's happening, okay? Okay, and so here we are in your third lesson plan. I really like here that you have these pieces aligned, and so I have full confidence that you'll be able to align those when you revise your first lesson plan. Okay. I see that you're using discussion as a formative assessment, and then obviously the essay itself is summative, and that's well done. Okay. Now in this lesson plan, you do a little bit better job of scaffolding for them. And let me show you some specific areas where you do that so that you can replicate it, okay? You anticipate a misconception here, which is nicely done. It shows me that you're thinking about your students and how it is that they learn and process information, okay? And you walk them through breaking that misconception down before, right? So that's like your first level of scaffolding. You anticipate a misconception. Second, you correct misconception. And third, whoops, I think I scrolled too far, sorry. Okay, good. And then third, you move into direct instruction about the new piece that you want them to look at, revision, okay? So in this one, I like the fact that you actually included the rough draft so that I can see specifically what you're doing, you know, what it is you're talking about. I have to say that your rough draft that you included is phenomenal, like almost too good. I don't know if you remember one time in class I talked about not bringing your A game when it comes to writing, sometimes kind of bringing your B game, because the essay that you have below uses some very large abstract words. It uses them well. It has some complex compound sentence structure in it. And when you're showing that to a bunch of 8th graders, you might just scare them. You might want something that's scaled back just a little bit so that they feel like it's something that they can legitimately reach for and obtain, rather than looking at it and going, oh, forget it, I can't do that, and just giving up, okay? But I like the fact that you included the rough draft, and I like the fact that you go line by line through the rough draft, looking, you know, giving them these very specific pieces. Look at this. Ask this, look at that, look at this, ask this, look at that. So that is very well done. That's that kind of scaffolding that I want you to provide for and with your students, okay? You know, and then you specifically instruct them, look at the thesis statement, think about this, do this. Okay, so it's, you know, very rhythmic, and I think that's good. You know, Rochelle, it's interesting. I can see a progression just in your 3 lesson plans here. The third lesson plan is the strongest of the 3, and this is, I believe, your first set of lesson plans that you're turning in for English Ed. So I've got really high hopes. I've got confidence that you can do this, because just in writing 3 lesson plans, I saw improvement from 1 to 3. So imagine by the time you revise these and then move on to write your next couple lesson plans, I think you're going to do a really great job. All right, thanks.